So hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for the Canva series today. I am Amy Work. I'm the Director of Communication and Member Programs at the Indiana Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. I do want to give a big shout out to the team who has put this series together. They put a lot of effort and work into this for you. So I hope you find it very beneficial. The team consists of Hannah Garriott and Jamie Davenport, who are Rita techs. And then we have SWCD staff Bria Persing from Elkhart County and Tracy Johnson from Knox County, and then myself. So hopefully you've been enjoying this series, and these are being recorded and posted on the IASWCD website. So if you have missed the previous sessions, you can go ahead and view them there. The links to them are there, also on our YouTube channel as well. This is our third in a series of 5 sessions, and the remaining 2 sessions will be July 21 and August 4. And again, all of those recorded and placed on the IASWCD website. For questions today, if you have any, we ask that you put them in the chat box. And there are several of us monitoring that during the presentation. And then we will definitely have time at the end of the session to go through your questions. So please feel free to put those there. Without further ado, let me go ahead and hand it over to you, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Amy. So yeah, I'm just gonna hop right in. I am going to preface that I might move a little fast today because I do have a lot to cover. So like Amy mentioned, please go back and look at the recordings if you missed something important or you need a little refresher. Those will be available usually by the end of the week after our sessions. So yeah, today I'm going to be showing you guys how to or kind of debunk the making your own flyers and whatnot using Canva. And so for starters, I've had a lot of people in the chats and questions asking, how do we start from blank? If you're a beginner, my biggest recommendation is not to start from blank until you understand all of the tips and tricks of Canva that they have to offer. And so I would always recommend just to use their templates to begin with, and then as you go through templates, you can see your own. I'll show you that in a little bit. But yeah, so first, I'm going to just go through quickly a bunch of examples that I've created from templates and made them into something for some of my districts. Oh, well, first, let's not do that. Let's do this. So when you create a design using a template providing, I usually don't choose it based off colors. I usually choose it off a layout, what best layout would work for whatever I'm creating. And then also when I'm searching for templates, I usually have to get really creative because sometimes if you type in something like cattle, it might not pop up anything to do with cattle at all. It might pop up something to do with like a holiday or anything like that. So I wanted to kind of show you that. This right here is an example of what popped up when I searched for farming in the templates. If I was to search up conservation, it would be something like this. It's a lot more wildlife biology centered in conservation than this conservation that the soil and water districts are used to. If I typed in agriculture in the search bar, it would pop up stuff like this, where, yeah, very good, great. We might have to change some photos because some of this agriculture isn't the Midwest friendly. This is things that we don't have, but could be useful to still use if we just change the photo. If I typed in water, it would be things like this. So not necessarily watershed, but we could totally use this for well water testing and things like that. You can also create your own. And then some of the examples. So I had this template that I took and I created it into this for a cleanup for one of my districts. I had this template that I took and created it to this for a Woman for the Land event. I had this template, made it into this for a ag park credit event that we put on. And as I go through these, I really just want you guys to look at the templates versus and seeing, what has been changed and how little of it was changed. And then the last template versus creation was this one that I completely changed into something like this. So you can take a template and keep it kind of the same, or you can completely rework it, which is what I did here. And then just some ideas of things that you can create with Canva as a district. You can do annual meeting creation. So for this case, I created annual meeting booklets for some districts, including all of their stuff instead of having to have a majillion papers out on the table for uh, community members to look through. They can just take home a little booklet. And then like table toppers that have the agenda, annual meeting glossary, so like an alphabet soup diagram so everybody understands all of the acronyms we have in our world. And then these are some placemats that I created, interactive placemats I created that we put down on the table. So as people ate dinner and the meeting started, they had something to do that all related to soil and water and the county. I've created many educational activities, whether that's just like flyers for an educational activity that we're putting on. These are for a game that I do with Outreach for Children, a pollinator beach ball game, worksheets. This is a bug hotel flashcards activity. This is actually on a huge yard sign for students to use when we talk about tree types and tree leaf types. This has a circle in the middle so they can hold it up to a tree leaf and then compare it to the other ones. This is just something that I saw, I think, on Pinterest, and then I recreated on Canva to make it useful for Indiana. Informational brochures, whether that's about your soil health groups or becoming a supervisor, associate supervisor, or even just a summer tour. I've created things like that. So there's many different ways you can do that. These were all created with templates as well, and then I just made the templates prettier. And then some random stuff that I've created with Canva this is actually an assessor's office sheet that the district gives to them to hand to new landowners. This is a huge banner, pop-up banner for a CWI grant, newsletters, and then just signage you can use for anywhere is some examples. You really just have to get creative with it, and especially when you go through your templates, you'll kind of see that. And so now I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint, and we're going to actually walk through together how to create our own template walkthrough, kind of what I do from start to finish when I'm creating for counties. So this is the home page of Canva. Once you are at the home page of Canva, we're going to go to templates over here on the side. Click on templates. You'll get to this page, which I showed you earlier. This is kind of what it looks like. And then this is where you can search for templates. So this is when I was saying get creative, whether you're putting agriculture, whether you're putting farming, whatever it is, get creative right here. In this case, I actually starred the flyer that I know I want to use. And so I'm going to just go ahead and get that opened now. When you open the flyer, you can customize this template this way, or if you're not sure you're 100% set on this flyer, you also have other options that are kind of close and similar to the one you have. So if you're struggling finding flyers, but you found one okay one, just click on it and see if they have any ones that are similar underneath. Go ahead and click customize this template, and then it will pull the template up. One of the first things I recommend to do is always change the name of your flyer so you can find it easily. So for this one, I'm just going to change that to that. Once I have that opened, I have my template right here. The very first thing I do, you don't have to do this. This is totally up to you. I'm going to click this right here. You can see that it's this square with this plus sign, double square plus sign. It says duplicate page. I'm going to click that, and it's going to duplicate my page completely, copy it out. And the reason I do this is just in case while I'm creating, if I deleted something up here that I actually decided later on that I want, I can go back and still use it. Or if there's a color or something, a font up here that I accidentally deleted out, but I want it, I can go back and find it. So now that I have my template all ready to go, what I do usually for the very first thing, I don't like when they have like these edges on the side. I know they do it because of the printing lines. It really messes with my creative mind when creating. So I just go ahead and do this, but you don't have to do that. I always start with adding images to replace the images that are already here, whether that means I'm going to keep these or not, you never know, but it's mainly because I like to cohesively add my coloring to the images I have, making them all match. So to add an image, we did kind of go over this a little bit. You'll go to your uploads. If you have an image yourself that you want to take, that you've taken and uploaded it, you can click uploads. You'll upload files here. And then you would upload it from your computer. So if you upload files, you'd look through here and you can choose an image. I actually know I have images already uploaded on here because I have a bunch. Something really fun about Canva is you can search your images that you've uploaded. And so I'm just going to type in cattle and it will pop up all the images that I have cattle in, or they might do more cow. And then it will pop up all of the images that I have uploaded in the past that have cow or cattle. And so for this one, this back image right here, I know there's already an image there, which means there's probably already an image frame there. So I can just take the image that I want to replace it and replace it like that. And it's already back there. I don't like that I can't really see the cow or cattle in the image. So instead of moving this image up by just holding it and moving it up that way, I'm going to actually go right up here where it says crop. I have this image highlighted if you can't tell. Click crop, and from there I'm able to adjust the image without moving the frame itself. I moved that up, and then I'm just going to, you can either click save down here or you can click off the page. It will do it either way. And then something else I'm going to do, I don't really like how little I can see this. I might change the transparency. I might move it up just a little bit. So this image right here with the square grid lines is the transparency, and so you can adjust that how you feel fit. I'm just going to move it to 27, I think. And then I think I'm going to change this image as well. I think I'm going to do this one that I have. If you're wondering, like, where can I find images at to use for flyers if I don't have any personally or my district doesn't have any personally, CCSI has them on their website that you can get. They're free photos that you're able to download. They just ask that you give them credit. And then the Soil and Water Conservation Society at the national level, they also have photos that are available for people to use in the conservation world. So that's one way. And then I do want to replace this photo right here, but I know I don't really have anything that would fit this. So I'm going to go to Elements on our side toolbar. And then for here, you can search whatever you think. So I think I want some sort of pasture image in that one. So I'm just going to type in pasture in my elements. So there's multiple different things on our elements that you can go through. You have graphics, you have photos, and you have videos. I'm going to go to photos. And here are all of your images you can use, and you won't have copyright or anything. Something I want to point out for those that are still debating to get free, to keep their free or to get pro Canva, all the images that have these little crowns by them in the bottom corner, those will not be available to anybody that has the free account. These are only available to the people that have pro. So if you're still on the fence about getting that, you can look through this and see what's offered for free and what's offered for pro, and if that's going to work for you. So once again, I have this image. I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to drop it into our frame that's already there, but our image is a little sideways right here, but I don't want to move this shape, I don't think. I'm not ready for moving this. So instead, I'm going to click that frame again so it's highlighted. You can see the box around it. I'm going to go back up to our crop, but instead of cropping it, I'm going to rotate it so it's straight on like I would like, but now it's really blown up. So then I will shrink it, and then I can move it around just again. And this way I don't have to move the frame. I'm just moving the image. Once again, you can click save down here or just click off your page. And then from here, I'm going to move on to our actual information of our flyer. So now I have the images done. This is the fun part to me, finding the fun things to create. But here I'm going to move on. I know I don't want this up here. This is the people that created this templates logo. So I'm going to go to the title. I feel like the title is always the hardest to come up with because you want it to be engaging. For this one, it's not going to be too engaging, but I'm going to just label this one pasture walk. And from here, I'm going to increase the size. So I have pasture walk highlighted. You can either zoom in like this to increase the size to how you want it to be, or up here is also the font size. So I think that's a good size for me. I'm going to keep it this font. I don't mind this font at all. Like I said, some things I do are going against what Bria said. For the time of the day, I don't have the things I need to do. But so pasture walk, and then I clicked effects up here because I think I want to do something a little bit more with the shadow in the background. It has a little bit of a shadow on this font, but I want it to be a little bit more. And so you can see that this has the drop effect on this font. So I'm actually going to go here to transparency, which is just the transparency of the drop. And I think I'm going to increase that to 100%. And that way it gives it a little bit more depth on there. And then for my second title, I'm just going to put in field day. But I do not like that font. It kind of is boring. And so I'm going to just change it to a little bit of a more fun font. And if you look right here down at this bottom, it says change all. So it's asking me if I want to change all of the font that was in the intern font to the Brittany font. And if I wanted to do that, I could click accept. And it would change everything that was in an intern font to Brittany. I obviously do not want everything to be that font. I just wanted the and field day. So if you go up here, you see this undo button. It's a back arrow. Click that, and it's going to undo everything I just did. And now that's only changed for that. Say I go here and I do change the Brittany font, and it asks it again, but you're like, how do I say no? There's not a decline. Just click off that screen. You don't even have to click that button. You can just click off of it, and that's you saying no. So I have that changed. I'm going to change the color of this just to give it a little bit of definition between the two fonts. So I'm just going to go ahead and change it to a yellow, just for this one. And then I think the drop shadow, everything on that, I think I'm okay with how this looks. I might move it a little bit closer to the pasture walk, but I'm okay with the title now. So now we're going to move down here. I'm going to delete this. And for here, this usually could be wherever you want to put it. For this flyer, I'm going to just type in a quick little join us or this is just like a little catcher, a little brief description of the day. I don't like that these are all capitalized. It usually takes up too much space. So if you go up here, you can see where our font bar is, our font toolbar. If you look right here where it's the uppercase and lowercase a put together, and you can see that it's a highlighted purple, and I have this font box highlighted. If I click on that, it's going to turn it all to lowercase. If I do opposite and click on it again, it's going to make it all uppercase. So instead of having to go back and forth deleting if you wanted it all uppercase or whatnot, that's just an easy little tool to use. For this case, you can change the alignment if you would like. You can make it centered. You can make it to the right and the left, or you can do the full on. In this case, I think I'm going to just make it centered. Okay, and so now as I move down here to work on the lower half of the flyer, You can see there's this big box back here that's kind of going to affect when I'm moving everything else. This big box is actually like this little yellow fog that the template came with. And so instead of moving this all around and deleting it, because I do like the way it looks, I'm actually going to, you can see I have that box highlighted. Right here, it says lock position and appearance. It's a lock. If you click on that, that locks this box so it no longer will interfere. I can't grab it. I can't have it interfere when I'm grabbing other things. If I wanted to unlock it to edit at any point, you just click on it again and unlock it, and then you'll be able to grab it around. So now that that is grouped, I'm going to be able to use this yellow box. I want it for something, but I just know I don't want it over here. I don't want this right here, so I'm going to delete those words. But this right here I would like to use. So I'm going to hold down on my mouse. Pro tip, Canva is way easier to use when you have a mouse. The mouse pads on the laptops work, but sometimes it's really hard to do this next step that I'm going to show you, which is the grouping step or grouping method. So if you hold down your mouse and you can see that I'm highlighting all of these things, I am going to get those together. Might have to move that up a little bit. Highlight and move down. And you see I got everything highlighted. And once you see everything in purple, you can click group. And what that does is it's going to allow me to move this entire box together. Whereas if it was ungrouped, I could only move the words together or the yellow box together or whatever it is. But in this case, I'm going to be able to group it all together so I can move everything together until I'm ready to decide what I want to use with that. I'm going to delete these plants down here because I do not need them. I can move this up just a little bit. I might move that back down now. So now I know I have the brief information about the day. I need to also get the information about the time, the place, the day. So I'm going to ungroup this box, and I think I'm just going to delete all of that. I'm going to delete all of these so I can just highlight all of the little check marks and delete them all. Move my box over here. Maybe make it a little bit bigger because I imagine it's going to need to be bigger. And now I'm going to start adding things in. So I'm going to duplicate this right here. Instead of going over here to the text and adding a text box, I'm just going to duplicate this. It's really handy dandy instead of having to move all around over here. And then that way I can just edit this text box as I need. And so I'm just going to put today's date as our date for this flyer. Don't like that it's pretty small, so I'm actually going to do some font changing here. So if I highlight that text box, go up here to this first text font toolbox spot, and then here will be all of the fonts that you can use. And as you can see, there are some that have crowns by them. That means that these are fonts only for the premium version. There's not as many, but could still run into an issue later on. And I'm going to change this font to super bold and then also increase the sizing on that. Maybe move that over here for now. Okay. So sizing is created. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add the time. So go ahead and click that. Add the time. These are things for flyers and events. You should always include the date, the time, a quick brief what's going on at the event so people know what the event's about, if they're going to be interested in it or not. I don't like that this is still centered. I want it to be lined up with the Tuesday, and I don't want to have to figure it out myself. So instead of figuring out myself, I'm going to go up to the alignment, click the alignment, move that over there. And then same thing, duplicate this text box for no reason besides that it's easy, and I'm going to put the address of the event. I only know one address um, by heart, and that is the Rockville office. And so that is the address I'm going to act like our event is at today. I don't like that this is a lot bigger. I'm also going to change that to that one. Unbold it. Not the biggest fan of bold. If you see that I clicked on that and I clicked on bold and it didn't unbold at first, it's because I didn't have this highlighted. So just so you know. And then I'm going to italic this for no reason besides I want to do it. And so I'm going to italicize that. Make this maybe just a little bit smaller. Actually, I think this one I had. Yep. And then same thing, the alignment's all out of whack, so I'm going to throw the alignment back and put that. Something I like to do on flyers instead of just leaving the dates like this is I like to add little, like I call them markers or blockers or whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if you go over here to elements, so we got photos from elements before, but this time we're going to get actual graphics from them. And so for the date, I usually just type in like calendar. And then you can see here under the graphics tab, click see all. Here, once again, just to note, every graphic that has a crown is for premium. Anything that doesn't have a crown is for free. And so I'm going to go ahead and click a calendar. I don't want it to be black though. I'd rather it kind of match with the rest of the colors. So I'm going to just change it to this dark green that I have throughout the rest of the flyer. And I'm just going to shrink that down until it's about the size that I think it should be, maybe. And then once you have that, you'll add that. I will go back over to my elements. I'm going to do a clock for the time. I will find a clock for the time. Kind of something I would like to note on these is try to find stuff that looks similar, whether that's like similar in line thickness or character, so you don't have like weird random stuff all throughout your flyer. Kind of make it unison. So I found this clock. I'm going to shrink that down, try to match the size of the calendar as best as I can. A pro tip, it's kind of hard to show you via Zoom, but when you're shrinking stuff down, you'll see it often wants to catch on some of the alignment lines. If you don't want that, when you're holding and shrinking, if you hold control down, it will allow you to move without adjusting to all those alignment lines, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, please reach out to me. I would be more than willing to send you a video on what I'm talking about. And then for the last one, you can either put point or you can put, I think I did place marker. Yes. And then I'm going to click that one, change the color of it as well as green. To note, not all graphics like this will sometimes allow you to change the color. So if for some reason you chose a graphic and you're having trouble changing the color on it, just note that's probably not you. It is probably just the graphic that you chose via Canva that won't allow it. It is a frustrating thing because sometimes you can find really cute graphics, but you can't change the color to match. Okay, whatever. And so the next thing is moving down here, why choose us. Instead of why choose us, I'm just going to put what to expect. Once again, another area to briefly go over what's happening at this event. I'm going to group these two things together just so I can move them together instead of having to adjust both the font and the box at the two different times. Then right here, just bullet points of some things that are going to be. Sometimes you can put your agenda if you would like here, brief view of your agenda, or just some highlights of things if you have like a big speaker coming. In this case, I'm just going to type up some random. This I want to just be a little bit bigger. It is kind of small. Um, that should be great there. And then for a few things when you're doing events that I think you should always include, that is whether if it's a long day event, so like this is a little bit of a longer event, it goes through lunch. If lunch is provided, you should put always lunch is provided. Uh, that is a really good way to get people to your event. But also, if you have a registration that is mandatory, that is something else. So in this case, I want my lunch provided to be like a huge standout to my people. I want people to come. So instead of making it all lowercase, we're going to highlight that text box, go up here to the double uppercase A that we mentioned earlier. Click on that, and you'll see that that is now all capitalized. Put that there. And then down here where there's the phone and the phone number and this graphic, I'm going to actually just delete those. And instead, I'm going to search up an RSVP graphic. And you don't have to do this. You don't have to search up an RSVP graphic. You can also just use you can just write RSVP mandatory. You can do whatever you want. But this is just to show you guys some more graphics available because there are quite a bit on Canva. And then here, I'm just going to type in the ways that they can RSVP. For the Gmail, I'm just going to put it all in capitalization just for those that might be hard of sight, might be hard to see on certain fonts. But also if people are wondering if there are any capitalized letters at all when writing it out, this way they have no confusion. I think that's the extension. If Amy's on here, I'm sorry, Amy, if that's wrong. I always get the extension wrong for their county. And then one last thing I'm going to do is add just the park, let them know who this is. Um, but I want this to be smaller because it's not the star of the show. And I'm going to underline it. So if you click underline right here, it will underline, or it won't underline because I didn't click the whole box. I had a text line still there. Click that, underline it, and then align it. These need to be a little bit bigger. And then if we look over here, we see this really big blank space. And I'm not a big fan of blank spaces. So I think I want to put something there that's going to kind of draw people's attention in. And so what I think I'm going to find is maybe since this is a pasture walk and we're talking about grazing and whatnot, maybe like a big old cow head. So I'm going to go over here to my elements again on my side toolbar. You see it says elements. And I'm just going to type in cow head. Let's see what they have. So we have graphics here. So these are all the cartoon versions that are available. I'm not sure if I really want a cartoon. This is for adults, so I would like it to be more realistic. So let's go to our photos that Canva has to offer. And let's see. I like this one. This one's it's not too silly. It's not too crazy. So I have this image, but I don't want to put another frame down here. I don't really want to just put this image here. It would look kind of funny, right? So something really cool about the Pro Canva, and I think we mentioned it before, is this background remover tool up here at this top. I have the photo image highlighted. I can click that here, or if we go over to edit, if I have my photo highlighted, click edit, it'll pop up this. You'll see all of the tools. You click see all. Obviously the tools that have the crown are for pro only. And And so background remover is only for pro, but I can hit that and you'll see it go to work and it will remove my background from my image. That way my image can look so nice and pretty right there. If I wanted to give some dimension or depth, I'm not sure the right word on that one, to the image, I could click on it, um, edit it, and scroll down and give him a shadow. So he looks like he's supposed to be a part of the flyer. And so if I did that right there, it gives him a shadow if you can tell. And there's a way to actually, if you click on the shadow that you chose on again right here, it'll open it up so you can actually edit the distance or the angle your shadow is going towards. So if I wanted him to be angled that way or that way, so on and so forth. And then the last thing well, not the last thing, but one of the last things that I'm going to talk about is when you're making flyers, you usually have either partners or sponsors or even just promoting your own logo. So you want to add logos to these. And so if you go to your uploads, you can upload your logos through there, or like Bria mentioned, if you already have your logos uploaded into your branding, you can do it through there. For this case, I already actually have my logos in my upload folder. As you can see, my upload folder images is quite messy. Do as I say, don't do as I do, okay? I've been doing Canva for a very long time. I wish I had all of the organization things I had before. But as I've learned new things. Recently, one being from last session afterwards. But one thing you can do is if you've uploaded logos before, you can just type in logos. I have luck most time getting all of my logos to pop up right here that I have uploaded, but not all of them will. So if you go on your upload tab, you go to your folders, you can create folders so then you can organize the images you upload, which is something I will be continuing to do from this point on because I learned about this 2 weeks ago. And so I have all of my logos in a folder now. That way, when I'm creating flyers quickly for my districts and I am using the same sponsors or using the same partners, it's easy for me to go and find them instead of having to be sent them all the time. I have them all uploaded here. And so for this case, I think this is all park. Where is she at? There she is. So there's the park logo. Didn't mean to do that. So we can lower him down and you can place them wherever you feel fit. If you have a bunch of them, you can put them up here. So say like the USDA was also involved in this, you can put that up there if you would like. You see these are trying to get into these frames. If you're having issues with that, what you can do is you can click onto your frame and lock it, and then you won't have an issue anymore. Hold on, locked the wrong one. I don't think I showed layers actually. If you click on this and you go to more and you go here, you can see layers. I'm gonna have to scroll down, I think. It's not gonna let me. My toolbar. Click on this here, layer, and then you can move it this way. But if you click show layers, this way you can see what image is where. So you can click it and look through here and see. It's an easier way to grab and click on things that might be behind multiple images. Yeah. And then I'm just going to briefly touch on when you're doing registration and stuff, always put if RSVP is mandatory or not. So like in this case, I would just put it somewhere around here. Like registration is mandatory, registration is not mandatory. In a few sessions, we'll go over QR codes and adding those to flyers and when you should and shouldn't use QR codes. There is a way in Canva that you can use a QR code. So they have apps that you can do. Or if you just go to Elements and you type in QR code, it'll actually pop up a generator for you right here. And so for this sake of this, I'm just going to type in and then you'll have a QR code that you can use for registration or whatever, place that wherever you would like. So if I didn't want to put the cow head here, I could put the QR code there if need be. Yeah. And then I think that was almost it. Jamie and Amy, did I miss any of the big things that we were going to talk about? Okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything you missed. I'll look through the list again to make sure.
All right.
And
I'm
how
going to pass
about
it over to Jamie.
Okay.
Yes. Well, we're covering, so pardon the musical chairs, everyone. Hannah and I are both out of training this week. And so we're in the same room and we thought this might be easier than trying to change our settings. So I'm covering just more of once we have that flyer created, what do you do next? How are you going to use that and actually get it printed into a physical piece of media? So once you have your flyer or whatever you'd like to print or design ready, and Hannah covered a lot of the different features that you can use when you're making flyers, but please just know that you can play with this. This can be fun. It's a way to use your creativity, and we have some rules and suggestions about things that help make them accessible or maybe more appealing from a marketing standpoint. But it's also okay to just kind of futz around and do what you like. But so once you have the design where you'd like it to be, you have a few different options for how you actually go to print it. So there are, you can print it professionally, you can print it through Canva, and you can print it back at your office. So if you're printing it from your office, Canva technically has a direct to printer option within the settings, and I'll tell you how to get to that. But I would highly recommend not using that. Whenever I have a design, I like to just download it directly to my computer so that then I can print it from my printing software on my computer instead, just to minimize the risk of errors happening. So whenever you actually want to go download a file, you'll go to the share on the upper left or upper right side of the screen and then hit the download button. If you wanted to print from your computer, here you would instead hit the see all and then scroll all the way to the bottom. And then there's a direct to printer option that you have within the Canva application. Once you're in the download screen, you'll see that you can select your actual file type. So PNG or JPEG are really the best options if you just have a quick picture that you want to share. So in the next session, we'll cover more about social media. And so you would most likely want to share that just as a picture so that then it posts correctly and it will load correctly on everybody's phones or devices. Whereas if you were printing it onto a physical piece of paper, we would recommend that you save it as a PDF instead. This is so that then it maintains your formatting at the level that you want it to be, and it keeps everything in the same spots. So for your actual download settings, there are some things that you can toy with, and something that we do want to highlight again, and we keep saying it, but this crown here, it's indicative that it's a pro feature. So whenever you have an unpaid account, you will be able to download things, but it just might not be in as high of a quality as with a premium account. So within this quality setting, here in the middle menu, I forgot I have a cursor now, here in the middle menu, if you want to have a higher quality, then you would need to have a more premium account. It's totally fine to not, as you're working through, if you decide you want to do that, but just something to keep in mind. You also would be able to select your page range of what you want to print. So if you only want to print, the first page, just make sure that you're selecting it at this point. Okay. So then other options that you have when you're prepping to print, you'll see underneath here, it will give you some more settings. And so one of those is crop marks and bleed lines. So Canva, whenever you're designing, will do their best to help you out with that. So crop marks and bleed lines are just the edges that you have along your design. So if you were getting it professionally printed, the way that they typically do that is that they print it kind of en masse and then they cut it to the size that you ask for. So then it's as crisp of a finish as possible. You could do that in your office if you wanted. So if you were DIY printing, you could select crop marks and bleed lines to enable that. It gives you a little buffer so then you can cut it off. But then Canva also does try to help you out a little bit, and it tells you when you're getting into that bleed line zone. So there's just a risk of anything that's beyond this red dashed line and in this red zone. If it's important, keep it out of that. There is a pretty high risk that you will lose that in the printing process. Sometimes it comes through, sometimes it doesn't. It just kind of depends on the actual printer that you're using. But just bear that in mind. Keep anything important out of there. The other feature that you'll have when you're downloading as a PDF specifically, because PDFs, you could save them either as a digital or a print in this case, is the color code or the color formatting that it uses. So here we have CMYK and RGB. And Canva tells you this, that CMYK is best for the professional printing. But that's also, I mean, generally, if you were printing in your office, especially if you know that you have a CMYK printer, or like that's the ink that you're using. So RGB, just for everybody, the good of the group, RGB is what the colors look like on your screen. It's as close as possible. It's what Canva automatically does their colors in, are those kind of color codes. But CMYK is the more professional graphic designer style. So it's a higher quality and it matches the printed version of that color to what's on your screen the best because it's usually the brightest. And then just to cover some of your options for printing professionally. So we kind of covered the printing in-house, but if you're printing professionally, you could use a local printer or somebody else that you like to use. So if you like to use Vistaprint or some other online service, that's totally fine. You would just download this document the same way as if you were printing in your office and then upload it into that portal or send it over to them via email. All of those good things. You might have to go back and forth a little bit with tweaking some settings, like, oh, we need to have some more space for the crop marks. And so that could be a little bit of a hassle. Another option that you have is to print directly through Canva. And so you don't have to download the file in that case. And so that's where once you open the share and download settings, there is a print shop that you can go through where Canva will actually prepare the design, print it, and ship it to you a little bit more directly. So use whichever option makes you feel most comfortable, but those are kind of your three options for printing. Something that else we wanted to cover just as a little time-saving trick is mail marketing. So there are a lot of offices that we've worked with that like to, send out postcards or brochures or something like that to a standard mailing list. So when you're doing that, you want to save as much time as you possibly can. So there are two tools that you could use here. One is that you can use a USPS imprint permit. And so that is to create this standard just postage stamp. So then you don't have to manually stamp every single piece of mail. So instead you can go ahead and just build it into your design along with your return address, return service requested, and then building that in. To get a USPS permit imprint, you have to have your own specific number and account. So you should go into your local postal service office and get that set up. But then they'll give you your actual permit number, and then you can just design it already into your flyer, postcard, anything like that. There is also an option to bulk create with your addresses. So say that you have a mailing list of everybody that you want to send it to. I only have 4 people in here because they're who I decided to pick on. These are not our real addresses, if that was at all up for debate. But so you can take your mailing list, and there is another application that Canva has. So again, this is in the apps feature on the left-hand side of the screen. You'll have bulk create. And then once you've used this or any other apps, just as a note, they will go ahead and load on your right-hand side. So especially as you use them more and more often, or whichever ones you've used most frequently, they'll populate higher to the top. So bulk create looks like this. And then you can either link it to a sheet. So if you use Google Sheets, then it can keep updating that address list continuously, or you can upload Excel documents directly, or use any of these other options that they offer. And once you've done that, then you can match each field. So you can remember the 3 columns that I had in the previous screen was name, street address, and then the city, state, and zip code. So then I link it to that part of the document so that then And I would highly recommend using preview, but then you'll hit continue and then it will go ahead and it will duplicate the document and create a bulk mailing list basically. So it'll repeat the design for you. So then when you download it, you can print it and it just does it all directly. It does end up creating a pretty large file because it does it it recreates the design for each person that you want to send it to, but it does simplify and save a lot more time than going through and individually typing in the addresses or even doing the sticker labels and having to individually go through and do that once they've already been printed in the blank space. But once you've done that, as long as it succeeds, it should look like this when it's done. And it'll do that for every person's address and it will maintain the formatting. So that's another thing to note is that you want to make sure this formatting is set up how you want it to be before you actually process the bulk create. So make sure that, the names aren't going to run into anything if it's a potentially really long name, or that they won't go into the graphics. They're nicely spaced, all that jazz. Yeah, with all of that being said, we are actually done. So, and open to any questions. And if you want to come over here. Oh, there was, I remember there was a question in the pre-survey about MailChimp and using that with Canva. We are planning to cover newsletters in more depth in a later session, but MailChimp does directly connect to Canva as well. So in that download or in the shared download settings, you can then go, like if you hit see all, go to messaging, see all, MailChimp. There's a lot of things hidden in Canva. So if you're ever curious if something like that exists, I would highly recommend searching it and then just kind of poking around and seeing what you can find. Mm-hmm. And I know we went through this all really quickly today, just because it was a lot of information to cover, and I do apologize on that. But I want to say that if you're ever creating something and you're not sure how to do something or not sure if it's looking good or if you're missing something or something like that, you are more than welcome to reach out to myself. I'm sure Jamie is also the same. Our contact information is on the Resilient Indiana page, which is on the ISWCD website. So even if you're not a part of a district, I'm more than willing to help anyone with some questions, as long as it's something I have an answer to. And if I don't, I'll find somebody that does.
Jamie, there was a person that asked and said, I don't see the bulk create in apps. Is there another name for this? So
I don't think so. Jennifer, are you searching for it in the apps or just looking? Okay. Hannah's gonna check as well. Let's see, because I can also. So whenever I go to look for it, it's just this. Click on it. Oh. And it just blank. So it doesn't have, maybe I'm wondering if that's what it is. It doesn't have like an image. It's just a blank image. If you want to go back, if you can. Yeah. Is she seeing it now by chance? Jennifer, does that help at all? Okay. Okay, good luck. Hopefully it comes up. Yeah. That's weird. Yeah. I really like it. Unless it's pro. I don't know if that's. It didn't have a crown. It didn't have a crown, but I don't know if like all apps are pros. Because that could be a thing. Jennifer, do you have pro or do you have free? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you should have it then. Yeah. Huh. Hmm. Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, we'll poke around too, but yeah, if you still can't find it, maybe send us a message. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, I don't see any other questions. A reminder that this is recorded and I will get it posted on the IASW website the next day or two. It's on the trainings page where the other sessions are listed that also have links. You need to register for each one to get the Zoom link. And so that's all on the training page at iaswcd.org. Any other questions pop in?
Actually, it was Stephanie just let Jennifer know that she has to have an open project for the bulk create to pop up.
Oh, and it worked.
Okay.
And it worked. So that was, thank you so much, Stephanie, for that, because I would not have even thought of that.
All right, great. We got an answer to that one.
The nick of time.
Oh. All right, our next session is July 21. You can find more information about it there again on that training page on the IASWCD website. And then the final session will be August 4th. So hope you all can join us for that and have a great rest of your week. Thank you for joining us.
Yay.